Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Sean Slater.
And I'm his sister Caroline.
And today we're watching minute 25, which starts with Kingpin opening the portal for testing and ends a minute later with Spider-Man nonchalantly stepping off of the portal.
I have named this minute The Reactor Reveal.
Yeah, it's definitely like this is the first big scene we get that shows like the full power of the reactor and why it is so dangerous.
Yeah. This was a fun minute. And tonally it kind of tonally it kind of kept like switching to me and like mixed with like just Spider-Man's snarkiness and like comeback comments to when he would be serious, it would just be on a pin, and then it would switch back, and I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, getting a little bit of emotional whiplash.
It's like, whoa. But like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make it weird, but
it's not whiplash might not be. It's more of a roller coaster than whiplash.
Yeah,
it's good. Like it flows through smoothly.
Yeah. For a good example, when we start this minute, Kingpin's like, you're gonna love this. It's a
real light show.
It's a real light show,
or
something like that. I feel like he says freaking, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, he says that.
It's like a real freaking light show. And Peter responds in a quite serious tone with like, no, don't do this.
Here.
You'll kill us all.
I got it real quick. It's a hell of a freaking light show.
That's
You're gonna love this.
That's where that PG-13 rating comes in. Just that line.
Yeah, he gets really panicked with his with him like pleading Kingpin not to do it.
Yeah, although then it's like it builds up. It's like computers are going. You see all these things popping up, getting ready. The lights start going coom coom coom. It's like this big thing.
To touch on the computer real quick.
Go for it.
First of all, it's the like title of the program is a AFHC probe, and I couldn't figure out what if that acronym stands for anything. I'm guessing it's something Fisk.
Albert Fisk?
Home calling? I don't know. Another Fisk home call probe. But I kind of love when like most people get really annoyed when like their profession is misrepresented in media.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes it can be really annoying, but I always get a kick at looking at like what code looks like, and like what people use as the visual language of the way programming looks.
Yeah.
And like in this case they start it and just it's very pretty, big flashy lights everywhere, and a big pop-up pops up that says like it's that AFHC probe.exe, which means they're running a Windows machine. They're running it on Windows.
As you do.
There's a like small window in the back of the computer screen that you can see, or like one of the windows on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And in it you can see some like code running by.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it might either be like, I couldn't really tell because it's not actual real code, but it looks like it might be either like JavaScript or C, something like that. But it's just like, if this happens, break. If this happens, break. And break in this case just means like exit a loop. So like if you're looping through a list of things and you find the number you want and you want to like exit that loop instead of continuing, a lot of times you'll just call break, because it breaks the loop. And so it's like, okay, at least it kind of looks like functioning code. Maybe there's no like, and there might be some like stuff on the like line terminators, but but at the same time, like, there's no indentation, and so it's like really hard to read, and like the text just goes off of the like outside of the edge of the pane, so like, it just stops like in the middle of words. You're like, I can't read what that says. This would be absolutely pointless to have displaying on it. And like, if it's the actual code running, like it wouldn't look like that. Like you wouldn't be able to see the actual code running. It wouldn't scroll by like that unless you're, I don't know, reading through it or something.
Yeah.
And then
so this is a strike against the movie, is what you're saying?
I'll say like half a strike against
half a
the
strike.
movie.
Okay, half a strike.
Cause it like I don't know. There's a like with a lot of professions, you have to understand that there is a visual language that is used a lot of times to like indicate to the audience what is going on without like necessarily being accurate. Because it's because it's not real life, like you have to shorthand things. And so when to show like, oh, the computer code is executing, like there's never anything to like look at in real life when code is executing, because it's just like
doing what it's
running on a machine
to.
with no visual output in theory. Like you might have some like graphs that you would be watching potentially, but like it probably wouldn't look this pretty. It might, but you wouldn't have code just like scrolling by on the screen. So like I can usually forgive that stuff. It's usually what grinds my gears is when it's like misusing misusing technology in a way that wouldn't be possible, or they say like something is happening that can't happen, or doesn't happen. And so like this doesn't really bother me.
Okay. I don't have the same problem you do, because so much of my profession is visual.
Yeah.
And when, you know, our people representing it in TV, film, or whatever, they know. So
Yeah.
it's like everyone else, it's more everyone else like, oh, that's so not how it works. But everyone who's in it's like, no, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, you don't really need to hire a consultant on acting when everyone's acting.
It's like, oh yeah, it's like oh, no director would not hire someone because of like their hair color. I'm like, no, that happens a lot. Like it just does. That's just what this industry is. Get over it.
Yeah. So that's my little rant.
All right,
about computer screen.
You feel better? You feel good?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, that sequence is so inaccurate, fun to look at, and it helps build up to this kind of anticlimactic, which makes it funny, lowering of this tiny machine from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And the one thing I love about this is I love both Spider-Man and Miles kind of just are like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Looks like, on their faces. I'm just like, that's not what I... What? So look, it makes me laugh every time I see it.
It's a really odd, like, way to deliver a probe. Like, it makes sense, kind of. Like, when you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, that would, just dangle it from above and insert it in, I guess.
Especially later when you see, and we'll get to this, like, how the machine works. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes probably the most sense to deliver it.
Yeah. When it first was dropping down, like, well, when I looked at it, I was like, I really recognize like what that looks like. Like it looks like something familiar, but I couldn't really put my hand on it.
Same.
And then...
I really looked at it this time, and I'm like, I know what that is. I'm like, wait, isn't that the X-ray from the dentist?
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, the little round bit on the end is the part they stick against your mouth, and it finally clicked when you mentioned it earlier. Mentioned it to me before we started recording, And yeah, and the other thing too with this shot is the control room they're standing in
Hmm.
really just like does not look like it belongs at all.
It
There it
yeah.
especially in the like head-on shot, it just looks like someone kind of pasted it in there. Um because it's not like casting any shadows or anything.
Hmm.
And yeah, it doesn't look like it belongs, and it juts out from the edge of the wall.
Yeah.
So it's got this very like alien feeling to being in the room.
Yeah, I kind of like that it does that, but at the same time, it's like, who, who designed that? Like, what architect look at that and like,
Yeah,
oh crap, we still need to put that. We don't have room in the back. Just have it jet out a little bit.
yeah,
It's fine. I think part of the reason it doesn't really cast any shadows is we see that when the reactor's working, it's like there's so many lights around it. It's like there's really no
yeah.
place to cast a shadow.
The
So
whole the entire wall is just made of lights.
yeah, so it's like you need like sunglasses to work in there.
Yeah. And the in the animators commentary, they were talking about how like this room, they played a lot with the way lighting works in this room, and just
Hmm.
like it feels very weird because like it isn't quote unquote properly lit. Like it's not something that you would normally see. Like it just feels off because there's not like the shadows don't feel right, and
Yeah,
like sometimes there's shadows coming from different places, and it's a very weird room.
yeah. It it makes it a very cool room because of that. Like whenever we see the reactor room, I'm like, this place is cool. Every time.
Yeah. The one other thing with about the probe was in that same commentary they were joking about. They kept seeing how long they could get the that probe to like go down until like the director's like, that's too much. And so this is as long as they could make it uh, before they were told to stop making it any longer.
It was very funny. I do love
Yeah,
that they did that.
I do like usually enjoy those this kind of gag where it's like, okay, we're sitting here waiting for something to like extend, like it's all very dramatic stuff, and then like, oh, something slowly comes out to go into place.
Well, it's so tiny too. What I do like is just that brief moment of pause, like once it's set in place, it's just like, and then there's just launches of both sides of this like red dots shooting at it.
Yeah,
It's like two giant super soakers filled with red dye just shot at this thing at once. And it goes from like calm to anxiety ridden because I really want to talk about the music really quick at this moment.
yeah,
The music is awesome. I feel like we say that a lot in these episodes. The music is awesome. But this one in particular, very similar to how the Prowler music
yeah.
just kind of fills you with anxiety. This music does the same.
It sounds very similar to his. Like it
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of his, except like not as edgy or sharp. Like
Yeah.
this one feels a bit more rounded out compared to
Yeah.
his.
This one to me feels less accented,
Yeah,
where his is very like every beat. No, not every beat, but like those major beats that give those anxieties are accented to just make your heart pound, where this one is like, oh, something bad is happening right now, and not like, oh crap, I have to run. You're like,
yeah.
what's happening?
It's like a general sense of unease
Mhm.
compared to just a like immediately
Yeah.
fight or flight sense of unease.
Yeah, it's very clever and just straight up awesome, especially since it was like dead silent before. It's quite a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I love the music in this movie.
And
I just
yeah,
I
they
love
do
the
really
music in this movie.
good sound design.
So good.
And the other cool thing too is the way the when the collider smashes into itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mix of these like the Kirby dots that you see.
Yeah.
But it also you get like the way it kind of splashes around a bit. It looks a lot like spray paint as well.
I thought that.
and
I'm
the
like, it looks a
way,
lot like paint.
Yeah, the way it moves around. and like comes out of the can and sprays.
During the sequence, I don't know if you caught, this was actually the first time I ever caught this line, but so we hear female scientist while this is happening saying multiple dimensions are opening, and then she's like counting off the dimensions and we see them popping up. I didn't catch this line until this viewing of it. We hear her follow up saying, "It's unstable, we should stop."
So I think that's two different scientists. It has it like, at least in the script, they're listed as two different scientists.
Okay.
But that second one sounds a lot like Dr. Olivia's
Voice from
voice.
For listeners remember, I forget what minute it was, but when Miles was in the montage scene when he entered the one science classroom and there was a female scientist talking about multiple dimensions earlier in the movie. It seems like it's the same voice with her.
Yeah. It could just be like they have the same generic, like...
Yeah, it could totally be just like,
voice.
you know what, we have this voice actress, we need you to do this line.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, and like back to the one thing I found kind of funny was she was counting the dimensions that were opening, and what would she have done if it was like 12 dimensions that opened? Would she have been like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 dimensions?
I feel like she would have been more like 3, 8, 10, 12. Wow. Depending how fast they were opening.
Yeah.
Just be like, a lot. That would be me if that was happening. Like, a lot of dimensions are opening. A lot are.
Yeah, it shows the 5 dimensions opening and like kind of converging into Earth, or into to a center one. But I want to know like what that's representing, how that's being visualized. Like, does the way the graph is displayed, like, is Earth 65 closer than, Earth 8311? But like,
I feel like they're just like dots on a screen. From what it looked like, it's like we don't really know how to measure these. We just know that there's holes happening somewhere
like,
around
circles.
here.
Like, it looks like there's orbits and circles
like,
and stuff, and the dots seem like they might. Yeah, I don't get it. It confuses me.
The one thing I don't fully get, and this kind of transitions into the next shot, is if they're only opening 5 dimension, why is that lamppost so destroyed by just this conglomerate of things?
I think these are only the like 5 ones that were like kind of stabilized enough. There's other dimensions that are like I'm guessing these are like locked in dimensions, whereas like there's other dimensions that are like trying to get in and like break through a little bit but then come back. Like they don't break all the way through, and so they all the distortions are like those sort of like cracks happening.
Okay, that makes sense, because I'm like, if only 5 dimensions opened and we literally had a lamppost turn into a modern art sculpture, oh boy, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Go ahead.
What I was gonna say is, like, that scene brings me just so much confusion, but also some joy, in the sense that they show a crowd forming around this street lamp, and I love how they only have 2 people filming it.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, there would be more people filming it, but I appreciate that they only put 2.
Maybe the initial like the like what caused the distortions, maybe that sent out like a mini electromagnetic pulse or something that like caused everybody else's phones to like short circuit for a little bit, and so more people would have been filming, but only those 2 people's like phones kept working.
Or you could just go with the theory that makes more sense, is that it's late at night and so most people who would film are in bed.
That's true.
It did look like, from what I was seeing, that it looked like maybe most of them were like couples or older people, and then like the two people who were filming were like younger. From the dark silhouettes of not seeing their faces, I'm guessing anyway.
Yeah. And the 5 universes that we see their designations are 65, 616, 8311, 90214, and 14512. And those correspond to Earth 65 is Spider-Gwen's home Earth. And it first appeared in the Edge of Spider-Verse #2 in 2014, and then became the main setting of the Spider-Gwen run from 2015 until present day.
Mm-hmm. From 2015 till now.
Yeah. Even though it's gone through like multiple renumberings, and they just changed the title of her story. It went from Spider-Gwen to Ghost Spider.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, so but that's her main one. That's probably the second most fleshed out one of these. And then the next one going around is Earth 616, which is the like primary Marvel continuity, which started in 1939 with the first comic book that like Marvel claims to have published. It wasn't like published under the Marvel label at that time, but they can like the company can claim lineage back to them, and that's been continuous since then, pretty much. If you ignore the like sort of destruction of it in one of the recent events, but then it got fixed.
Comics!
So it wasn't really destroyed.
Boys, that does not describe so many comic book storylines.
It got destroyed, and then it got better.
You know, they died, but not really. They're back now.
No, it's always they died, but then they got better.
Yeah, they died, but then they got better. It's just a mild, it's like getting a cold. You get over it.
Yeah, just a small case of death. It's
like,
nothing
you
too
died.
serious.
You'll be over it by next week. It's fine.
And then the next one going around is 8311, which is Spider-Ham's universe.
Spider-Ham.
Which is just full of, anthropomorphic animals. That first appeared in the Marvel Tales starring Peter Porker the Spectacular Spider-Ham #1 in 1983.
That started in 1983?
Yeah, it was it's not a continuous one since then, but like it appeared then, and I think it was 6 or 12 issues. It was a mini series.
You know what? Only Spider-Ham could come out of the absurdity of the early 80s.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And then we have the next one is 90214, and that one is the Spider-Man Noir, which first appeared in Spider-Man Noir #1 in 2009. And that's just like, hey, what if we stuck the superheroes in the 20s and 30s and made it like noir style? I kind of like these. There's another one that's similar to this, which is Earth 1612, I think so. Yeah, 1612, 1618, something like that. Mm-hmm. Which is just put them back in medieval times. I'm pretty sure it's the year 1612.
Is this the one that's the Shakespeare Spider-Man that you told me about?
It might be. I don't. Yeah, it might be that one.
That might be my favorite iteration of Spider-Man that you've ever told me about, but have not read.
Yeah, that one's a interesting one. And then the last one is this one is Earth 14512, which is the one that Penny Parker comes from, which is like a kind of future techno anime inspired
I feel like comparing it to Big Hero 6, I feel like is a good.
Yeah, it's got that same sort of feel, at least from what we've seen in this.
Yeah.
And that one first appeared in Edge of Spider-Verse #5, in 2014. And then it all goes towards they all merge into the center one which is Earth 1610. And this is kind of a problem I have. This one of my complaints, however small, um, that it is 1610 is like the Ultimates numbering designation, and that first started in Ultimate Spider-Man #1 in 2000, and then went on until 2016 or so, kind of. I forget when that storyline was, but they did a storyline where they pretty much just said like, okay, we're done running these two parallel ones. That one was also very fleshed out, and probably and it was the most fleshed out alternate Earth compared to, or other than the 616. And then they like kind of destroyed that universe. That's the one that Miles originated in, and they smashed it into like 616, and we're like, okay, we're ending that story. Pretty much. And so like I kind of wish they would have given this universe a different designation, because like there's already history and like story and characters with 1610, and like it feels wrong, I guess, to do this, because like you already have this sort of like, oh, these are just different storytellings of the characters that we know, and you don't really need to, like, it's a nice Easter egg, but you don't need to like, you can just maybe make it 1611.
I think that's all it's supposed to be, just an Easter egg, not really anything else.
Because like they did some modifications for like Spider-Gwen 2 that like kind of keep it the same, but it don't necessarily mean that it's quote unquote canon as much as canon has importance.
We can talk more about Spider-Gwen when we actually get to her introduction, because there's definitely some things that I feel like we should talk about when that happens, but not now, when we get to that minute.
Yeah, and so then they all just kind of morph into this minute, or into this unit, or this Earth. Once that graphic like finishes up, we move on to the an outside shot showing these dimensions sort of intersecting with our dimension, and it shows more of that glitchy effect that we saw with the spider earlier in the movie.
We talked quite a bit about what's happening with the street lamp, and it's really the first sign, like, you get the sense of like why Spider-Man at the beginning of this minute was so panicky, like, don't do this. Like, you're starting to see the effects, and I think the street lamp one, I think, is just more funny than impeding. The one that I actually like, oh wait, this might be a little more serious than, or not a little more, like, this is serious, is the scene after the street lamp. We see, I believe it's the Brooklyn Bridge, and it starts glitching, and like you see the people on it looking up, and they're like, wait, what's happening? And I think what shows it the best is that there's this shot of Miles's dad, Jeff, just looking at it with like, I don't know, it looks like a combination of worry and confusion to me.
Yeah, he looks very like, I don't get paid enough for this. Like,
I'm just not like, paid enough for this thing.
What do we have to deal with now?
It's like, how am I supposed to take care of that?
Yeah, like he can't really believe what his eyes are seeing.
Yeah. And I honestly, if I was him and I saw that, I don't think I would believe it either. Well, so after we see Jeff, Miles' dad, we then switch back to inside of the collider, or the
chamber.
reactor.
Yeah.
Before actually I do that, why do you think they showed Jeff at that point?
Just to remind us that he's a person.
He exists.
um, like I think it's just a like it happens a lot in like movies though, is you'll get the reaction shots from like some strangers, but they always stick in the one person you're familiar with to like
Give a connection.
Give a connection. I also think this will sort of help set up later in the movie when his parents are looking for him. Like it kind of it just helps them like set up where they were when things went down.
Well, and I think this also helps, sort of going off of that, helps set up that this worriness that his dad tends not to show to Miles.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to see that, oh, he does worry. That's a weird way to word that, but you get what I mean. Anyway, going back to Miles, switching back, this poor boy can't seem to get a break. So the one thing that I like about this is that, so the collider is going on, and all of a sudden you start seeing destruction happening. And this, I guess it's a ceiling tile from the reactor, falls on the same scaffolding that Miles is on. So it crushes that, causing him to fall yet again. In like the past 3 minutes, this boy has fallen in like every scene he's been in.
Yeah, it's also like it falls exactly where he was standing too.
Yeah.
And you see like he looks up and then he's like, oh, gotta move, and like jumps out of the way very quickly. Which I think is like it's just another way to show his
Spider sense?
reflexes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like both,
Yeah.
because of his spider sense and his reflexes.
Yeah, there's that, which I'm like, they're really trying to kill this kid like this early on in the movie. And then it switches to yet another funny moment to me, which Spider-Man, he's under Goblin's claw, and he like glances up and he goes, Norm, what's your take on head trauma?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And then Goblin gets hit in the head with a ceiling tile, and I'm like, oh, really, dude?
I also love how when he gets hit in the head, the music just like cuts out.
Right?
And it becomes very quiet all of a sudden. Not very quiet. It becomes much quieter. And then like Peter just kind of like gets up, like, you know, brushes himself off, and
Tried to
just
warn
like
him.
so nonchalantly walks off of the edge
Yeah.
as he shoots at the
That
the
was
web.
something else I had. I'm like, this boy is so cool under this situation. Like, you can tell he's just used to this by now. We're just over with these kinds of situations.
Yeah,
Where
he's very confident with his abilities.
he doesn't jump off like you would think. No, he just casually walks off and launches. And I'm like, wow.
It kind of reminds me of like watching some people jump out of like parachute out of planes. And sometimes they'll just, you know, like take that step into nothingness and like,
Yeah.
you know, do that roll. It feels like a very similar motion.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It does feel that way.
And then like as he's swinging, the his dramatic music comes back.
Again, the sound design in this movie is really clever, and how it transitions and how it uses it for both emotion, comedy, and just sheer epicness.
Yeah.
Like they feel like we don't give enough shout outs to sound designers in general, but big shout out to the sound designers, I don't know how many worked on this movie, for this movie. They do a fantastic job with it.
Yeah.
So those are all the notes I have. Do you have anything else to add?
No, that's all I have for this minute as well.
Well, thank you all for listening, and we will catch you on Wednesday with minute 26. See you next time.
Bye.